Number 15, the smallest country in mainland Africa with the strangest shape. Imagine flying over West Africa and spotting a thin ribbon of land, no wider than 30 miles at most points, stretching nearly 300 miles inland from the Atlantic Ocean. That's the Gambia, a country so uniquely shaped it looks like someone drew a line along a river and declared a nation. And that's exactly what happened. The Gambia River, flowing from the Fouta Jalan Highlands in Guinea through Senegal and into the Atlantic, became the lifeline and the border of this extraordinary country. With just 4,127 square miles of territory, the Gambia is smaller than the state of Connecticut, yet it holds over 2.5 million people within its borders. The country is almost entirely surrounded by Senegal, like an enclave carved specifically to follow the waterway that gives it life. British colonial powers drew these borders in the 1800s, creating what would become one of Africa's most peculiar geographical formations. The river isn't just a border, it's the country's highway, its source of food, its historical trade route, and its spiritual center. Fishermen cast their nets at dawn, while women paddle wooden canoes loaded with goods to riverside markets. The shape of the Gambia tells a story of colonial mapmaking, where European powers divided Africa with rulers and treaties, often ignoring the ethnic groups, kingdoms, and natural boundaries that existed for centuries. But for Gambians today, this unusual shape is a source of pride, a reminder that their country, though small, carved out its own identity along the banks of a mighty river. Where are you watching from? The Gambia's geography creates a unique microclimate where savanna meets wetlands, where mangrove forests line the coast, and where crocodiles still swim in sacred pools visited by tourists and locals alike. The country stretches through 6 administrative regions, each with its own character, from the bustling capital Banjul on a small island at the river's mouth to the rural eastern regions, where traditional villages maintain customs passed down through generations. The narrowness of the country means you're never far from Senegal, and the two nations share deep cultural, linguistic, and familial ties. Many Gambians have relatives across the border, and trade flows freely despite the political boundaries. The river remains navigable for much of its length within the Gambia, allowing boats to travel inland, connecting communities that might otherwise be isolated. During the rainy season from June to October, the river swells and the surrounding lands transform into lush green expanses where rice paddies flourish and wildlife thrives. In the dry season, the Harmattan winds blow down from the Sahara, coating everything in a fine layer of dust and creating hazy orange sunsets that photographers travel thousands of miles to capture. The Gambia's size means you can drive from the coast to the eastern border in less than a day, experiencing the full diversity of landscapes, from beach resorts to rural farmland to forest reserves where baboons and rare birds make their homes. This small country punches above its weight in terms of natural beauty and cultural richness, proving that size isn't everything when it comes to leaving an impression on those who visit. Number 14, a country where crocodiles are sacred and revered. In Bakau, a suburb of the capital region, lies Kachikli Crocodile Pool, one of the most remarkable and unusual tourist attractions in West Africa. Here, Nile crocodiles, some weighing over 500 pounds and measuring 12 feet long, live in a small sacred pool surrounded by lush vegetation and ancient trees. But these aren't zoo animals behind glass or fences. Visitors walk among them, touch them, and even pose for photographs sitting on their backs while the reptiles barely move. The crocodiles are considered sacred by the Bujan family, traditional custodians of the pool for generations, and by many Gambians who believe the pool holds spiritual power. Women travel from across the country to bathe in the pool's waters, believing it will grant them fertility and blessings for childbirth. The tradition dates back centuries, rooted in animist beliefs that predate the arrival of Islam and Christianity in the region. According to local legend, the crocodiles have never harmed a human at this pool, a claim that seems miraculous given the predatory nature of Nile crocodiles elsewhere in Africa. The reptiles are fed regularly by the pool's caretakers, which may explain their docile behavior. though locals insist it's the spiritual protection of ancestors watching over the sacred site. The pool is also home to fish species, turtles, and monitor lizards, creating a small ecosystem within the urban environment. Visiting Caciquely feels like stepping into a different time, where ancient beliefs and modern tourism intersect in ways both beautiful and unsettling. Tour guides share stories of miracles, of childless women who bathed in the pool and later gave birth, of sick people who were healed, of community disputes resolved through ceremonies held at the water's edge. The crocodiles themselves seem unbothered by the attention, lounging motionless for hours in the sun or slipping silently into the murky water when the heat becomes too intense. Some have lived at the pool for decades, their names known to the caretakers who speak of them with affection reserved usually for family pets. Beyond Caciquely, there are other sacred crocodile pools in the Gambia, including one in Falanco, where similar traditions are maintained, though Caciquely remains the most famous and most visited. The reverence for crocodiles reflects a broader Gambian worldview that recognizes spiritual power in nature, in animals, in water sources, and in the land itself. Islam is the dominant religion in the Gambia, practiced by over 95% of the population. Yet these animist traditions persist, blended seamlessly into daily life, creating a religious landscape that is uniquely West African. The sacred pools are not seen as contradicting Islamic faith, but rather as part of the cultural heritage that existed before and now coexists alongside it. For visitors from cultures where crocodiles are viewed primarily as dangerous predators, the experience of sitting beside one at Caciquely challenges assumptions and opens a window into a different way of understanding the relationship between humans and the natural world. Number 13. The country of Kora music and the Griots who preserve history. In the Gambia, history is not written in books alone. It lives in the voices of Griots, traditional storytellers and musicians who have passed down the oral history of West African kingdoms, families, and heroes through generations. The Griot tradition is ancient, predating written records in this region, and it remains vibrant in Gambian society today. Griots are historians, genealogists, advisors, and entertainers rolled into one. They know the lineages of important families, the stories of ancient battles, the wisdom of proverbs, and the melodies that accompany ceremonies from birth to death. At weddings, naming ceremonies, and funerals, it is the Griot who performs, who praises the ancestors, who reminds everyone present of their connection to the past. The Kora, a 21-string bridge harp made from a large calabash gourd covered with cow skin, is the instrument most associated with Gambian griots. Its sound is ethereal, somewhere between a harp and a guitar, capable of conveying joy, sorrow, nostalgia, and celebration. Learning to play the Kora takes years of practice, and traditionally, the skill is passed from father to son within Griot families. The strings are plucked rapidly in cascading patterns that create complex polyrhythmic melodies, and when combined with the Griot's voice singing in Mandinka, Wolof, or Fula, the effect is mesmerizing. One of the most famous Kora players in the world, Tamani Diabate, though Malian, represents a musical tradition that extends throughout the mundane cultural sphere, including the Gambia. Gambian Kora masters like Jolly Nyamasuso and Alhaji Baikant have carried this tradition forward, recording albums and performing internationally while maintaining deep roots in their home communities. The Griot's role goes beyond entertainment. In traditional society, Griots served as mediators in disputes, as advisors to kings and chiefs, and as the keepers of collective memory. Without written records, it was the Griots who could recite genealogies going back centuries, who knew which families were allied and which were rivals, who could invoke the names of ancestors to settle arguments or legitimize claims to land or titles. This tradition continues today, though in modified forms. Griots still perform at important ceremonies, still praise prominent families in exchange for gifts, and still teach younger generations the history and values of their communities. However, modern education, literacy, and technology have changed the landscape. Younger Gambians learn history in schools, access information online, and may not rely on griots the way their grandparents did. Yet the tradition persists because it offers something written records cannot: an embodied, emotional, musical connection to the past. When a griot sings about the ancient Mali Empire, about Sundiata Keita and the Battle of Karina, the story comes alive in ways that textbook accounts cannot match. The music itself carries meaning, with certain melodies associated with specific families or historical events, creating a sonic map of West African history. The Gambia's small size and its position along the Gambia River placed it at the crossroads of major West African empires, including the Ghana Empire, the Mali Empire, and later the Songhai Empire. Griots preserve these connections, reminding Gambians that their small country is part of a much larger historical and cultural tapestry. Today, Kora music has found new audiences worldwide, blending with jazz, blues, and contemporary African music to create fusion styles that honor tradition while embracing innovation. Number 12, the roots of Alex Haley and the village of Jufra. On the north bank of the Gambia River sits a small village that became world famous through one book and one television miniseries. Jufra, with its dusty paths, scattered compound houses, and quiet atmosphere, is the ancestral home of Kunta Kinte, the African ancestor of American author Alex Haley. In 1976, Haley published Roots, the saga of an American family, a novel based on his genealogical research and oral family history. The book told the story of Kunta Kinte, captured from Jufra as a teenager in 1767 and sold into slavery in America. The story traced his descendants through generations of slavery, emancipation, and the struggle for dignity in America. The book became a sensation, selling millions of copies and winning a Pulitzer Prize. The following year, it was adapted into a groundbreaking television miniseries that drew 130 million viewers and forced America to confront the horrors of slavery in an intimate, personal way. For the Gambia, Roots put the tiny country on the global map and created a new form of tourism. African Americans, inspired by Haley's search for his roots, began traveling to Jufra to walk the same paths their ancestors might have walked, to see the village that represented a connection to Africa severed by slavery. The Gambian government recognized the opportunity and developed heritage tourism infrastructure around the story. Today, visitors to Jufra can tour the village, visit the small museum dedicated to the slave trade, and see the monument honoring Kunta Kinte. Tour guides, many of whom claim descent from the same Kinte family lineage, share stories passed down through generations, though historians and critics have questioned the historical accuracy of some of Haley's claims. Regardless of scholarly debates about dates, names, and genealogical precision, the emotional and cultural impact of Roots cannot be denied. For many African Americans, visiting Jufra is a pilgrimage, a way to reclaim a heritage stolen by the Middle Passage. They participate in naming ceremonies, receive traditional African names, and experience a sense of homecoming that transcends historical documentation. The village itself remains modest, with traditional compound houses where extended families live together, with chickens wandering freely and children playing in the shade of mango trees. Life in Jufra moves at a slower pace than in the coastal tourist areas, and while some residents benefit economically from tourism, others continue farming and fishing as their ancestors did for centuries. Near Jufra stands Kunta Kinte Island, formerly James Island, a small island in the river that served as a slave-holding station during the Atlantic slave trade. The ruins of a British fort still stand there, silent witnesses to the tens of thousands of Africans who passed through in chains before being shipped across the ocean. The island is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognized for its historical significance in understanding the brutality and scale of the transatlantic slave trade. Visiting the island is a somber experience. The fort walls are crumbling, invaded by vegetation, but the dungeons where enslaved people were held remain visible. Standing there, looking out at the river and imagining the fear, pain, and desperation of those who were torn from their homes and families, creates a powerful emotional impact that no amount of reading can replicate. For Gambians, the slave trade is a complicated part of their history. While European and American traders purchased enslaved Africans, it was often African intermediaries who captured and sold other Africans, sometimes from rival ethnic groups or kingdoms. This uncomfortable truth is part of the conversation in the Gambia today, as the country grapples with its role in the slave trade, while also honoring the memory of those who suffered. The Gambian government has positioned the country as a destination for diaspora tourism, encouraging African Americans and others of African descent to explore their heritage. Programs like the annual International Roots Festival bring musicians, artists, and cultural enthusiasts to the Gambia for a week of performances, workshops, and ceremonies celebrating African culture and the resilience of the diaspora. The festival includes traditional wrestling matches, drumming circles, fashion shows featuring African textiles, and panel discussions about Pan-Africanism, identity, and the legacy of slavery. For many participants, the festival is transformative, offering a space to celebrate African culture without the trauma narratives that often dominate discussions of Black history in the West. Number 11. The Stone Circles of Wasu and Ancient Mysteries. Scattered across the central region of the Gambia and extending into neighboring Senegal are over 1,000 stone circles, megalithic monuments erected between the 3rd century BCE and the 16th century CE. These circles, particularly concentrated around Wasu, represent one of West Africa's most intriguing archaeological mysteries. Each circle consists of carefully carved laterite stones, some standing over 8 feet tall and weighing several tons, arranged in precise circular formations. The stones were quarried from laterite outcrops, shaped into cylindrical or polygonal pillars, then transported and erected at burial sites. Archaeological excavations have revealed human remains, pottery, and iron tools buried beneath or near the circles, indicating that these were burial grounds for important individuals, likely kings, chiefs, or religious leaders. But many questions remain unanswered. Who exactly built these monuments? What religious or cultural beliefs motivated their construction? How did communities without metal tools or modern machinery transport and erect stones weighing tons? Why did this practice suddenly cease around the 16th century? The stone circles cover an area along the Gambia River and into Senegal, suggesting a shared culture or network of related societies that existed in this region for over a millennium. The monuments are found in clusters, with some sites containing multiple circles in close proximity, creating fields of standing stones that evoke Stonehenge or other famous megalithic sites. Unlike some other ancient monuments that have been thoroughly studied and explained, the Gambian stone circles remain enigmatic, partly because written records from this period and region are scarce, and partly because the societies that built them left no clear successors with detailed oral traditions about their origins. Local legends offer various explanations. Some say the circles mark the graves of ancient kings who ruled vast territories. Others claim they were gathering places for secret societies or religious ceremonies. Still others suggest they served astronomical purposes, aligning with solstices or equinoxes, though evidence for this is limited. What is clear is that constructing these monuments required significant labor, organization, and resources, indicating that the societies which built them were far more complex and sophisticated than often assumed. The Wasu stone circles, located near the north bank of the river, are among the best preserved and most accessible to visitors. A small museum at the site displays pottery fragments, tools, and human remains discovered during excavations, helping visitors understand the archaeological significance of the circles. Walking among the stones, especially at dawn or dusk when the light casts long shadows, creates an eerie, contemplative atmosphere. The stones stand silent, weathered by centuries of sun and rain, yet still imposing in their geometric precision. In 2006, UNESCO designated 4 major stone circle sites in Senegal and the Gambia as a World Heritage Site, recognizing their outstanding universal value as examples of ancient African civilizations and their architectural achievements. This designation has increased international awareness of the circles and brought funding for preservation efforts. Though the sites remain relatively unknown compared to more famous African historical sites like the pyramids of Egypt or the rock-hewn churches of Ethiopia. For Gambians, the stone circles are a source of national pride, evidence that their ancestors built monumental structures that have survived for centuries, testifying to the ingenuity and spiritual depth of ancient West African societies. The circles challenge simplistic narratives about African history that focus only on colonial periods or external influences, reminding visitors that complex civilizations thrived in West Africa long before European contact. Number 10. The return to democracy and the fall of a dictator. The Gambia's recent political history reads like a thriller novel, complete with an authoritarian ruler, forced exile, and a peaceful democratic transition that surprised many observers. From 1994 to 2017, the Gambia was ruled by Yahya Jammeh, a former military officer who seized power in a bloodless coup when he was just 29 years old. Jammeh promised to clean up corruption and improve the lives of ordinary Gambians, and initially, some of his policies were popular. But over 22 years in power, his rule became increasingly authoritarian, marked by human rights abuses, suppression of press freedom, arbitrary arrests, and the persecution of political opponents. Journalists, activists, and anyone perceived as critical of the government faced harassment, detention, or worse. Reports of forced disappearances and torture emerged from organizations like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, painting a grim picture of life under Jammeh's regime. He made bizarre and troubling public statements, including claims that he could cure AIDS and infertility through herbal remedies and prayer, and he once declared the Gambia an Islamic republic, though he later walked back this pronouncement after regional and international pressure. His economic management was marked by unpredictability, with sudden policy changes that discouraged foreign investment and damaged the country's reputation. Tourism, one of the Gambia's main economic pillars, suffered as reports of government abuses reached international media and travelers chose other destinations. In December 2016, presidential elections were held, and to the shock of many, opposition candidate Adama Barrow won, defeating Jammeh in what international observers deemed a credible election. Initially, Jammeh conceded defeat, but within days he reversed his position, rejecting the results and refusing to step down. The country faced a constitutional crisis. Regional leaders from the Economic Community of West African States, known as ECOWAS, intervened, negotiating with Jammeh while simultaneously preparing military forces to remove him if necessary. Gambians watched nervously, uncertain whether their small country would descend into violence or whether the democratic process would prevail. After tense negotiations and mounting regional pressure, including the deployment of West African troops to the Gambia's borders, Jammeh finally agreed to leave. In January 2017, he flew into exile in Equatorial Guinea, taking with him luxury vehicles and reportedly millions of dollars from state coffers. Adama Barrow was sworn in as president, and Gambians celebrated in the streets, dancing, singing, and expressing relief that the transition occurred without bloodshed. The peaceful transfer of power was hailed as a triumph for democracy in Africa, demonstrating that even long-entrenched authoritarian rulers could be removed through elections and regional cooperation. Since taking office, President Barrow has faced the enormous challenge of rebuilding democratic institutions, addressing human rights abuses from the Jammeh era, and revitalizing an economy damaged by years of mismanagement. A Truth, Reconciliation, and Reparations Commission was established to investigate abuses committed during Jammeh's rule, providing a platform for victims to share their stories and for the nation to confront its painful recent past. The Commission's hearings revealed horrifying accounts of torture, extrajudicial killings, and the systematic repression of dissent, forcing Gambians to reckon with the cost of authoritarianism. The transition has not been without challenges. Economic recovery has been slow, infrastructure remains underdeveloped, and corruption continues to be a problem. Barrow himself has faced criticism for not moving quickly enough on reforms, and for making political alliances with former JAMA supporters. But the fact that Gambians can now criticize their president publicly, that journalists can report freely without fear of arrest, and that civil society organizations can operate openly represents significant progress. The Gambia's democratic transition is still fragile and incomplete, but it offers hope that small nations can chart their own political destinies and that democracy, once lost, can be reclaimed. Number 9. The vibrant fabric culture and the art of tie-dye. Walk through any Gambian market and your senses are immediately overwhelmed by color. Stalls overflow with brightly patterned fabrics, traditional tie-dye textiles in indigo blues, vibrant yellows, deep reds, and earthy browns. Fabric in the Gambia is not merely material for clothing. It is art, cultural expression, status symbol, and economic livelihood for thousands of artisans, mostly women, who practice the ancient craft of tie-dyeing. The process begins with plain white cotton cloth, which is twisted, folded, bound with string or rubber bands, then submerged in large vats of dye. The bound sections resist the dye, creating intricate patterns of swirls, circles, stripes, and geometric designs. Different tying techniques produce different patterns, and master artisans can create incredibly complex designs that look almost impossibly precise. After dyeing, the fabric is rinsed, dried under the hot African sun. Then the bindings are removed to reveal the pattern. Some fabrics undergo multiple dye baths, layering colors to create even more elaborate designs. The tradition of tie-dyeing in West Africa dates back centuries, with different regions developing distinct styles and techniques. In the Gambia, tie-dye is often associated with women's cooperatives, community groups that pool resources to buy materials, share labor, and market their products collectively. These cooperatives provide economic opportunities for women who might otherwise have limited options for earning income, especially in rural areas where formal employment is scarce. The fabrics produced are used for everything from everyday clothing to ceremonial garments worn at weddings, naming ceremonies, and religious festivals. Gambian fashion blends traditional and contemporary influences, with many people wearing Western-style clothing for work or school, but changing into traditional outfits for social occasions. Women wear beautifully tailored dresses and matching head wraps made from vibrant African prints, while men don flowing robes called kaftans, often in white or pastel colors embroidered with intricate designs. The tie-dye fabrics are not just for the local market. They are sold to tourists as souvenirs, tablecloths, wall hangings, and beachwear, providing a crucial source of foreign currency for artisan communities. Some cooperatives have developed export relationships, selling their products to boutiques and fair trade organizations in Europe and North America. This global market has encouraged innovation, with artisans experimenting with new colors, patterns, and products to appeal to international tastes while maintaining traditional techniques. Beyond tie-dye, the Gambia has a rich tradition of other textile arts, including weaving and embroidery. Traditional strip weaving, done on narrow looms, produces long strips of cloth that are sewn together to create larger pieces used for blankets, ceremonial cloths, and traditional garments. The patterns woven into these strips often carry symbolic meanings, representing proverbs, historical events, or spiritual beliefs. Embroidery, particularly the intricate thread work on men's robes and women's dresses, requires extraordinary skill and patience, with some pieces taking weeks to complete. We've explored 15 unique and fascinating facts about the Gambia together, from its unusual geography and sacred crocodiles to its musical traditions, historical connections to slavery, ancient mysteries, democratic transition, and vibrant artistic heritage. This small country, often overshadowed by its larger neighbors, holds within its narrow borders a richness of culture, history, and natural beauty that defies its size. Hopefully, this journey gave you a fresh perspective on the Gambia, a nation where the river is life, where history lives in song, and where resilience and hope continue to shape the future.